Hi, today we'd like to talk to you a little bit about making a will. About 60% of Americans actually don't have a will, which is kind of crazy. Doug, can you talk a little bit about the importance of having a will? Why should we take time out of our busy schedules to make sure that we have this important document?
Well, what a will does is it makes sure that the way you want things to go happens. So, for example, you may not think you have a lot of money, but if you have a truck, you may want your truck to go to a certain person. Or if you're, say a single parent, you may want to make sure you have your kid's situation set up the way you want. And also your financial things. You need to know, I want my financial accounts or whatever to go to certain people, and you want to make sure that actually happens.
So I'm going to throw you a curveball.
Okay.
Let's say I only have an IRA. I have my beneficiaries on my IRA, and I feel like, well, that's pretty much it. Do I really need a will?
I would say you do, and the reason is there's more than just the IRA, of course. You have a vehicle, you have jewelry, you have possibly some art, you have a situation, in your case, your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to take care of your minor daughter and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you absolutely do need a will to make sure what you want to have happens.
And the will, of course, is at the state level as far as a legal document goes.
You bring up a very good point, because we have had clients that had a will and relocated to other states, and then when one of them died, they found out that their will didn't count because they had another state that they were now living in. So if you relocate to another state, one of the very first things you need to do is get a new will done.
What are some of the downfalls of not having a will? What happens?
Well, it depends on the state that you're in. Some states, for example, it will be divided up by other members of the family. So you might think that all the money is going to go to your spouse, but it could actually end up going to your children and your spouse. If you don't have a will, that's the way the state law goes, and that's the way it's going to work. Versus if you have a will and you say that you want it all to go to your spouse, then it'll all go to your spouse.
And also in Pennsylvania, it could end up in probate, or it could...
Well, it's going to be in probate anyway. Probate means to prove. So having unfortunately gone through this a number of times, when someone dies, you have to go to the courthouse, and that's when you're filing the probate. It's not really a tax, it's the cost of filing the estate is what it is. So it's part of that cost. And a lot of people confuse that as a tax. It's not a tax.
But I've heard of people, their funds getting stuck there for much longer because they didn't have a will.
It can, if it's a complex situation, estates can take a long time, even if you do have a will. Mm-hmm. To settle. It depends on the situation. And it's why you really need to sit down with an attorney and plan out what you want to have happen. The better you have it planned out, the better it's going to flow, and the estate will be able to clear up quicker. Mm-hmm. So in the case of my mother, she died very suddenly. We had no idea, she was perfectly fine and she was gone. And she had everything lined up for us. And so we knew exactly what her passwords were for her computer. That's an important thing. We knew where the will was. We knew she had her obituary written. So all that made life, we even knew that she wanted a certain type of coffin. So now it's much easier on the people you've left behind.
I mean, it seems like it's a lot of work for your children or your heirs to weed through, even with a will, but without clear direction. I would imagine that brings up all sorts of opportunity for argument and family discord.
Right, and this saves a lot of fights. And another example, and this was pre my even living, My great-grandfather owned a hotel in Pennsylvania, and it was a tavern kind of thing. And when he died, he didn't have a good will or plan set up, and part of the family actually stole the business from the other part. And to this day, the two parts of the family still do not talk to each other. So that's the other problem with not having a good plan set up. You might not mean it, but you could actually be setting your family up to be divided, to never communicate again. So I don't think many people would want to have that happen. And so they really need to plan it out.
Unintended consequences.
Yeah, it is.
Well, thanks for watching. As always, if you have any questions, please give us a call.